Welcome to Laptop Radio. Today's topic is what's new at GDC 2024. We have Chris with us. He is head of mobile innovation and privacy at MobileFuse. Hello, Chris.
Michelle, how's it going?
Good. Where are you based now?
So I'm in Sacramento.
Awesome. Awesome. It was nice running into you at the Game Developers Conference this year. And what is new at GDC this year?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Obviously, there's all the news about layoffs and reductions. I felt like that kind of bubbled to the top, but also lots of exciting things as well. One kind of cool thing is a lot of these people who have been laid off, they're starting new companies and trying innovative new things. So I was excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Before we just really get into the details of it, can you tell us your story?
Yeah, personally, I have a long track record in the game industry since we're talking about GDC. Started a company called FGL back in 2007, which basically did eBay for game publishing. So we were focused on Flash developers at the time. So developers who were making Flash games, what they would do is they would make a game, they would go to various portals, had games that people could play. So they would buy up these games and they were paying maybe a couple $100s, per game. And then when we came on the scene, these developers started making tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars per game. So it really exploded. From there, it moved on to mobile. When the iPhone released and games became really popular, we moved to help support developers in that platform. And that went really well. FGL is still around, but my own personal journey kind of split when we started managing thousands of apps and we created a technology which we called Enhance, which was able to put SDKs into apps with no coding. So it was this really cool product that other publishers and developers could use. So we took that and split it up into its own company. I went and ran that company. Then after a few years, that grew quite a bit and we sold to MobileFuse. It was 2.5 years ago. That's where I am now with a company called MobileFuse, which is a really large ad network that focuses on in-app ads and brand advertisers. They work with some of the top brands in the world, Home Depot, Samsung, Hershey's, etc. And that's where I am now.
Awesome. So I know Chris from years ago, and he does another program as well that you can volunteer in San Francisco almost every year. I've done that except for this year. I was a little bit under the weather, so I was a little bit careful. Can you tell us also about that program?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's called Indie Giving. It's perfect when we're talking about GDC because they really work together. So Indie Giving is a program I started 14 years ago, which the original intent was to help get people out to the Game Developer Conference. So we got tickets at a reduced cost. The reason it's called Indie Giving is for indie developers. It's more open now, but still to people who find it a challenge to get out there. And on top of that, we run a charity event the day before the GDC, where we work with a charity. We've worked with many over the years. The latest we work with is Compass Family Services, which works with families and specifically that are either homeless or in danger of being homeless. So what we do is when someone gets one of these reduced cost tickets, they show up to this event and we do any number of things to help the charity or the families directly before GDC. And it's a great way to meet people as well that are going to this conference. And it's something that we're really proud of. And this year in particular, we had the biggest turnout ever. It was over 100 people. So we were happy about that and it went really well.
Awesome. I think I was at Compass the last 2 years,
Mhm.
not this year, and it was awesome. And I love the volunteering part of it. I think it feels great just sorting clothes and toys. I think we painted it 1 year, right? It's the same place.
Yes, we might have painted at Compass. We've worked with numerous like homeless shelters and
Yeah.
like battered women shelters, and painting's a pretty popular one that we do. This year at Compass, what we did is we put together kits. So we had like hygiene kits where we had toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, etc. And then we had a second kit assembly where we put together food kits, snacks, non-perishable items. Compass has many programs, which is great. And another one they have is distributing new, clean clothes to those who are homeless, and their kind of clothing area of separating clothes and putting them on a rack, a lot of different things. And we've actually in the past also partnered with green initiatives, working with the San Francisco Parks Conservancy, and we've planted trees.
Yeah,
And
we planted trees.
yeah, you've been at a lot. We've done that as well. So yeah, and one of the big things in particular, since we're focused on the GDC, is that we try to do things that really contribute to San Francisco, and that's how it started. To be honest, is I went to a couple of GDCs and saw how we were all there as consumers, but we
Yeah.
weren't really giving back. And I just thought it would be nice if we also contributed to this area that was nice enough to support us and let us be there for the game industry.
Yeah, I think we pick up garbage near Fisherman's Wharf one
Yeah,
year.
the Embarcadero, we did that. Yep, that was great
We
too.
planted trees near the park one year, and then we painted a homeless shelter one year.
Hmm.
We sorted clothes and toys for 2 years almost. And then this year I wasn't there, but it sounds like we made kits for people, which is awesome.
Yeah.
What are some themes at GDC this year that you're excited about?
Yeah, the hottest topic, and I'm also excited about it, is definitely AI, in particular, generative AI. Talking to companies that are experimenting with that or have products with that. At MobileFuse, we definitely do a lot of usage of AI and experimentation. I feel like in years past, there's like a main theme of GDC, and many times they just come and go. They're more like exciting of what they could be. Whereas I feel like with this, it's already here. So it's a new level of excitement when you have people actually showing products that are doing things. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
definitely was a big one.
yeah. What is MobileFuse?
Yeah, so as I explained, we're an ad network. So our kind of differentiator in that space. So one is we're in apps, so we're focused on apps mainly and advertising within that. We work with large brands, so we have a whole sales team that sells to advertisers and agencies so that we have really high quality, great brand advertising as opposed to focusing on performance. We have been around for many years, way before I was even there. So over a decade. So they have a lot of experience working with all types of apps. I know we're focused on GDC, so gaming apps are big. And then, yeah, we definitely are trying to be different as far as the ad formats that we use. So there's always those standards that everyone's used to in mobile, the
Yeah,
banner, the interstitial, rewarded. And so we're creating, we do when we support all those and do really well, but we also are making new ad formats that aren't traditionally put into apps. So the other side of our business is working with publishers, and we focus on largest and the biggest. So we're really big in quality. Yeah. So coming out with ad formats that help supplement and increase revenue without impeding what you're currently doing.
you're the head of mobile innovation and privacy. And innovation, of course, there's tons of innovation, especially around AI and a few other things. And then, of course, privacy. And with
Mhm.
AI, sometimes privacy is questionable. So, like, when you go to GDC, what kind of things catch your eyes and make you think about innovation and privacy?
Yeah, it's a great question. Whenever you have an eye for privacy, I'll be honest, internally, it's a blessing and a curse. I'm very entrepreneurial and I like to make things and break things and think about the repercussions later. But I'll be honest, it's a great growth thing for me to focus on privacy and that you think beforehand about maybe some of the repercussions of what you do. MobileFuse in particular is really big on making sure that we're following all privacy guidelines and laws. We're on top of all, maybe more than any other ad network, all the upcoming state laws that are coming out and making sure that we're adhering to all of those and following them as closely as possible. And you're right, when you're talking about AI, there's this ethics gap where all these cool things are happening and we're not even really considering the privacy, not to mention all the other ethical ramifications of it. I definitely see that with products coming out that maybe things people haven't thought about. I try to bring it up when I talk to them. As far as us in particular, we make sure to apply any kind of AI tool or methodology in a way that we feel meets all the privacy guidelines. And I'll give you an example, like when we use kind of art generating assets, we make sure that, first of all, we're on plans that allow us to use them commercially. Some people aren't even thinking about that. And the other side of it, which is really hard, I'll be honest, things are still in talks and people are still thinking about it. But what was the training data used? And was that sourced ethically, and was that used in a way that followed the laws? That's still a gray area, but we're trying to make sure that we only use products that we feel are useful or are doing things the right way as much as possible. Just to name a couple things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you go to any ethics courses at GDC? Because I was on the AI and ML tracks.
Hmm.
Well, I went there and I listened in, but I didn't hear anything about ethics. And I might have missed anything about the sourcing of AI, like a supply chain. Where does data come from? I didn't see any courses or any rooms about that. Do you? It's so big, so I might have not seen it.
To be totally honest, unfortunately, where I am in my career, GDC to me is more about meeting different companies and catching up with old colleagues and finding new opportunities. So I don't get a lot of chance to hit a lot of the talks. So I can't really speak to that. I hope there are. When the vault comes out, I probably will catch up and maybe we'll be more educated there.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but so speaking of GDC in particular, I can't say they did or didn't. I don't know.
And I was catching up with a few projects, so I miss it too.
Yeah, no, I do miss that part of GDC. I think there are some really great talks that I unfortunately don't get to. But I will say, just on the topic itself, there's definitely lots of people thinking about this and talking about this. And I think the hard part is the pendulum effect, where I think there's some people going overboard thinking AI is going to take over the world and is ruining everything. And then there's the people who think that it's the future and we shouldn't even worry about the ramifications. And there's the golden mean in there somewhere that we have to land on and be responsible for. And so that's where I try to find the best course and the best path.
I met with a few games and I'm pretty excited. I think they are using AI and the graphics are awesome. The games are augmented and I think it's more fun. So I'm actually excited about how the game industry is using AI. What other technology do you see as another GDC theme besides AI?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the different tools to build games in. There's some exciting things coming out there. Personally, and I know it's not as exciting in my field. I'm doing a lot with ads, all the different kind of movements around advertising and how to create advertising and how to display advertising so that it's better for users. A big thing top of mind right now are all the changes in the mobile world. Actually, even on the browser, there's deprecation of cookies and how you can track users. And then in the mobile world, it's the device IDs and ad IDs and what happens when you can no longer track a person as an individual but have to make guesses about who they are and still show them the most relevant ads. And so, yeah, so maybe less sexy, but definitely a lot of brain power going to that and thoughts around that and changes that will need to be made if these game companies want to maintain their revenues and keep producing great content.
Let's talk about ads. I think it's an interesting subject, and I love ads. I think because it's very effective to bring your game to the world. If you're a game publisher and Hello World doesn't do it, you want people to play your game, and ads help with that. So let's talk about ad formats. What is the old ad formats and what is the new one? I know that MobileFuse is going to create new in-app ad formats that benefit publishers and advertisers. Let's do it before and after and see how that's changed over time.
Yeah, sure. Again, specifically talking about in-apps. So these are ad formats within apps. And the reason I make that differentiator is that when you're talking about the web and even mobile web, there's a lot you can do. Like you have a lot of control over the screen and then the page, whereas in-app you don't. So that's why that's been stagnant for so long. But yeah, so talking about like the kind of the old school way and current main way of advertising an app is you have your traditional banners. So like maybe the bottom or top banners people are used to, like are stuck on your screen. There's also the 300 by 250 squares, the MRECs that can be somewhere on a screen. You usually see those news sites and other apps such as that. And then you have interstitials, which that would be typically a full screen that pops up at any point using an app. So anyone who's used a game and between levels, something just pops up, that'd be called an interstitial. Then they have rewarded ads, which are usually given as an option to someone. These are really big in games. So, for example, if you need an extra life, need to continue a level, want a special item, something will pop up and say, hey, you want to watch a video in order to get that? So you get a reward for watching the ad. So that's a rewarded ad. And those are the typical. There's also what they call a native ad, which is basically usually a banner ad that fits the theme of the app.
Mhm.
So that's another one that's pretty popular. But those are the top ones. There's some out there that people have been experimenting with. For example, MobileFuse supports one called a thumbnail, which there are other ad networks that support that, but not many. So
Mhm.
that would be like a little video that shows up somewhere that floats around. And again, on web, this is pretty standard, but it's pretty unique on in-app. So yeah, so those would be the standard. As far as going forward, or I would say maybe more experimental type in-app ads. And I do want to note, keep in mind that it's very hard to push new ad formats because it requires a technology change. Like a publisher would have to put in a new code, plan where it's going to be in the app. So it's quite a bit of work. So that's why there's usually a lot of friction to a new type of ad. Ones that we're seeing that are getting pretty popular. We have one that we call it like a flex ad, sometimes called an omni ad. So this would be something that maybe pops up near the bottom of your screen for a second and just gives you some information about the product. If you click it, it might go full screen or might become interactive. If you don't interact with it, it goes away. Those are really popular because you can call them whenever you want. They don't need to take the place of a banner or an interstitial. It's a new format. We've gotten really creative with how interactive the ads are. We can have transparent backgrounds where maybe an ad floats into the screen. Again, a lot of these you might have seen on the web, but they've not been in app. That's something that's been really cool. We've always been really involved in rich media ads. Some of those can fit, or we already are using. So like what they call an expandable banner, maybe one of those like footer banners I was talking about, if you were to tap on it, would then explode into some kind of cool animation and have a game that you can play as an ad. So yeah, there's lots of really cool things. The challenge being you need the advertiser to invest in it and then the publisher to implement it.
Awesome. Do you see AI being incorporated into ads in the future?
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities. And really, if you look at the whole flow of an app in the ads, like there's opportunities at any point. The very simplest, which people are doing even now, is asset creation, asset modification. Our creative team, who creates all our own ads, everything, all of our at least direct sold campaigns are all made in house. And they're utilizing AI art systems to help. One is even to mock something up, but then also maybe to actually create assets that they can use within an interactive ad that they're putting together. So that's something that can be used both by ad networks and game developers as well in their games. Obviously, any text, that's something that is pretty well done now by these LLMs, these generative AI systems. I was talking to a company that actually had a way to give it a bunch of different assets in both text and in art, and it would give you different permutations. Like it would just come up with 20 different options of what it might look like. So that would be something that you could use either directly or as inspiration for ads. And then the serving of the ad itself, and maybe not to get too deep into the subject, but when we talk about AI, there's already established use cases of AI. For example, machine learning, which is also considered an AI. It's not a generative AI, but it's a form of AI. Yeah, and for example, MobileFuse, we have our whole machine learning team, which focuses on that. So we can do traffic shaping. So what that means is when you are going to show an ad to someone, we actually have an AI that before that happens looks at all the different variables and decides if it's even worth showing the ad, right? It might say,
That's
hey,
awesome.
yeah, so based on all these criteria, it might say, don't even show the ad. Yeah, and we've proven that's extremely effective because it's analyzing billions and billions of these things happening. So it can take a really good educated guess on that kind of stuff. But yeah, so there's AI all up and down from do you serve the ad? What kind of ad you show? We even have AI like that. For example, do you show a video versus static ad or something else? And it can make that determination. And then the actual creation of the ad. But yeah, it's exciting that there's all these different implementations you can do.
AI is doing everything.
Yeah. I do want to say though that to me, if you try to take it too far, the people saying that the AI is going to take jobs, the way I look at it actually is these are great tools. They're still not critical thinkers. To me, what I keep telling people is AI is not going to take your job, but if you don't learn AI, someone who does know AI is going to take your job, right? The people who know how to use these tools are going to be the valuable ones, not the tool itself. So that's like the takeaway, I think.
Yeah, completely agree. And in terms of ads and ethics, if you're using AI, and that includes machine learning, what kind of ethics issues or matters should one think about? What are some ethical things that people should think about or may want to think about when they wanted to use AI? in ads.
Yeah, there's so many. And I think that as it goes on, we're going to find some we're not even thinking about. I do have to say that I like that people are thinking about it before it gets really adopted, but it'll happen. I'll give you just some random examples
Sure.
that aren't even necessarily issues right now, but they could be. So, for example, financial institutions are regulated in such a way that they can't offer certain packages exclusively to certain groups of people. Think about like, oh, if you live in a neighborhood that has a low income, I'm not even going to offer this loan option that has a good interest rate. And so let's back that up. Maybe the bank doesn't think that. The bank's just like, hey, I've got this interest rate loan and I want to offer it. But then the AI decides that, oh, these areas it doesn't work really well, so we're not going to offer it to them. That could be inherently racist, not problematic in general. And so, how do you account for that, and how do you track that, and how do you put guardrails on that? It's stuff we're going to have to figure out. Not to mention, like again, talking about the art generators. Actually, I did an article one time. So our creative team did this one ad that was really cool, where we worked with a shaving company, and it was a little game. There was a person who had a beard. You would click on the shaving cream, you'd put it on the guy, then you'd click on the razor and you'd swipe your finger around and it would shave him. So it was really cool. So they made all that, but the art itself, they used some AI system to generate the face, and then the face with the beard and the face without the beard. So just the different parts.
Yeah.
I actually wrote an article that reproduced that to show how you could do that.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I would, for example, I'd say man's face. And it just gave me a bunch of white men, and they all look the same. And there's some inherent, whether it was what they were trained on, or I don't know what it is, but why should a man always be white? Why should they always look that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
so there's those parts of it as well that have their issues. And then yeah, anything that we basically aren't monitoring these things, they're going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think when you ask for a woman, the body parts of the woman are completely like comics.
Sure, yeah.
And then also, if you put a story on there and ask them a question, it'll make a man instead of a woman, depending on. So I had to go around that to change the storyline so that the woman is first, then the man. It's not there yet, but it's okay.
And again, when you have a person, like in your case, you have a person, yeah, it can be okay if as long as it's a tool and you're
Yeah.
guiding it. But what becomes a problem is when we remove that. If we get to the point where these AIs are just deciding what to push out there, there's going to be definite problems because of the data they're trained on is bad. It's the problems we have in the world that they're trained on. So
Yeah. I think another item is the aggregated data. I know that names are not disclosed, even if someone's PII is not disclosed. And the
mhm.
data doesn't have personal information, but from the data, they can track you. And that's what happened to the famous Netflix Closet Mom case. Even if companies give data to the AI, with the data, the AI could still figure out who you are, which is scary. So I don't know if that is going to be an item that ad companies think about because you wanted to target the right people. Just interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think along with what you're saying, one of the big things that I internally, like when I talk to our machine learning team and our other AI efforts, is the blessing and the curse of it that what these things do is they optimize for a goal. But the problem is, and this is not even a computer problem, this is a human problem that you see throughout time, that if you're not careful about what ends justify the means, then you can get all kinds of bad results. I remember the whole Wells Fargo debacle where they told everyone like, "Hey, open new accounts. That's our goal." Which the real goal was increase revenue, but the CEO was like, "If we open new accounts, we get more revenue, so we're getting there." But then people just started opening accounts for people without their permission because they got their bonuses. And so they were optimizing for their goal. They opened a record number of accounts. It was illegal and it was horrible, but they did it. And that was people doing it. So you set an AI to it, who knows what it's going to try to do. And again, it's following orders. So those are things we have to think about too. Like I tell like even our team when we're talking about traffic shaping and just when to show an ad or not. And this is not even ethical. This is just like business stuff. That
Yeah.
even if you say revenue, like revenue is what we're optimizing for, you might hurt some of your clients that are more interested in less churn, whatever it is. And so you have to be careful and cognizant of all that. And again, I feel like as long as we have these human filters between it, we're good. But we're moving towards less and less of that. So that's the stuff we'll have to work out and think about.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about privacy. I love privacy. I've spent time writing some of them in the past.
Yeah.
And so with AI and privacy, even when I was visiting another company that competes with the company that makes it famous, because we know that AI existed before. The point was that if you use a GBT that is currently out there, the information that you put in there could be used unless you opt out publicly. So you're basically losing your competitive advantage. And without privacy, and if once you feed in there, things become public. So there's a blurring of what is public and what is not public. There's a blurring of what is my competitive advantage if everyone can use the same information. And then accidentally making your company information public by feeding into the AI. What do you think about when you think about privacy and ads?
When we talk about specifically what you're bringing up about like entering in prompts and information into these systems, I think there's kind of two levels of problems. One is the black box of the companies themselves. How are they using that data? Exactly how are they training it or sharing it? It may actually not be that bad. In some ways, it can be arguable that if enough companies in the same industry used it, it would be helpful to all of them as long as they didn't see the specific information.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they're doing that. So I would never advise that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so there's that. But then there's the other level of just how these models work on guessing what to say when you ask it something. And so I think that's where we've seen some problems where you'll ask it something and it'll give you like some very specific personal information on someone or some company. And to me, and that's more just a problem with the model that it's guessing what you want to say, and it might give the exact revenue data of another company because that was something it learned. Yeah, so there's definitely that. As you mentioned, a lot of these companies are coming out with versions that keep your information private or don't use it for training. In fact, we use that ourselves. We have a couple companies we work with and at MobileFuse, and we make sure that's the case. And again, I don't think we're overly worried about it, and we're not really using it for anything extremely sensitive anyway. But like you said, it's more like, hey, this is our proprietary stuff. Why even risk it? So I think we'll continue to see that. What I keep waiting for is them to make it easier to use internal company data to build your own, like kind of train set. Or I will say ChatGPT, we're using the Teams version. Like I said, we're using multiple, but that's just one example. And so we've set up custom GPTs that use our own internal data, and it's pretty good. It's not
Yeah.
perfect, but yeah. But again, I guess they claimed our assumption is that they're keeping that all segmented off from everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, there's an opt-out form on their website that you can go and just to be sure so that they don't commingle your information.
Yeah, yeah. And on the enterprise versions, they have that kind of by default. So that's what we're looking at.
Nice. That's awesome. Is there anything you wanted to share that I have not asked you?
Oh, I don't know. We've talked about a lot. I'm excited about where things are going. We've gone on a few tangents here, but to bring it, back to GDC and the games kind of area. I know it's been hard for a lot of people recently, and I think also, as I mentioned, like the good thing is I think I'm constantly impressed. This even goes back to the indie giving and why I'm always excited about it every year is the passion of the game development community is so amazing that I'm constantly impressed by it. And so when you look at what's going to be coming in the next year or two, I think it might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I know it's hard to hear that for people who've been laid off and companies that have had to slow down. I think what we'll see from that is a boom because people don't change. It's just what their situation is changes. And so I'm excited to see where people take all these kind of cool, new, innovative things since they're not working for maybe a large corporation being a cog on the machines.
Yeah, and the people are so creative too and talented. Like
Absolutely.
when you go to GDC, everyone, they're a 3D modeler, they're a designer, they're a
Yeah,
storyteller, and they're a programmer. Those talent, they don't go away.
absolutely.
That's awesome. What is one piece of advice that you have for the community? And before that, let me ask you, what's your favorite games?
My favorite games.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm a gamer. So it's hard. I'm trying to narrow it down in my head. Recently, obviously, mobile is huge. So I play a number of mobile games all the time on the PC. I'm into first person shooters. I've been most of my life. I'm also nostalgic that I grew up on the Nintendo. And so I still play like RPGs and console games. And
Awesome.
yeah, a funny one is that I've got kids and at various ages, but they all at some point have been into Roblox. And so I even play Roblox. In fact, I've made a couple Roblox games. I have one that has 1.5 million plays. So I'm
Wow.
humble proud of that I just built it to hang with my kids and it had some level of success. So I'm all over the place, but I have fun anytime I'm playing a game.
That's awesome. So what is one piece of advice that you have for the community?
Yeah, it's hard to answer without knowing exactly who's listening or who exactly I'm talking to when I talk to people who are new to the industry. The big thing is just to stay informed, track what's popular at the moment. Like right now, if and I know we spent a lot of time on this, so I don't want to harp on it, but if you're not up to date on AI and looking into some of those, then you're behind. So you definitely need to do that. One that comes up a bit is monetization of games. And I know I'm extremely biased here, but even before I was in the ad industry, I think that it's a great opportunity to offer your game with ads when you don't have to worry about charging every single person. That's a great benefit. Not that, and in fact, I actually encourage you to do both. People should pay for a good product. But yeah, keeping up on ads and making sure that you're showing relevant things to your users so that they get enjoyment out of both playing and helping you make money.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think ads are super, super important. And Chris, thank you for your time. You dropped a lot of wisdom here. And so just wanted to thank you and thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks so much. It was my pleasure.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.